Welcome back to CS 170. We're still working on Excel spreadsheets, so we're continuing on with week 10 here. We're going to be looking at some more of the VLOOKUP, and then we're going to go into the PMT function. Okay, so if you remember last time, let me see, we were left off of here. Just a couple of things I want to go through here. So there's one point here saying that it's must be sorted low to high. Just one point here. I think based on my experience, this is really when you're doing the approximate lookup. If you're doing the exact matching, I don't think it matters. So as long as like each of the elements that you're looking up is a unique element, you should be able to look that up. And we can try that in a second. And the other thing I wanted to go through was what happens if, you know, this last argument for the lookup, whether that's true or false, that's optional. It will default. And let's see what happens if we don't do anything with that. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to go into the PMT function, and then I'm going to just show you a couple extra things here. One thing maybe I'll just kind of mention quickly. I know I've gone on about it a couple of times in terms of the videos, but it seems like for whatever reason some people don't think that the My Media is that organized. So we have it by week here in My Media. As soon as this thing comes up. Chugging along as usual. Okay, so, oh, actually not My Media, Media Library. My Media is my own stuff that I put into Media Gallery. So it's the Media Gallery. So the Media Gallery is organized by weeks, as we discussed before. I know I put it into the Excel sheet and listed, but I know some people have some problems with questioning on it, and that's because sometimes the links change up on me. So, you know, as of right now, this is kind of the best way, and as I load up the videos, I put it into each of these weeks. So we're in week 10, so I'll be putting this video into here. And you could also look in this one, which you can order based on like the times I uploaded them, which, you know, I upload all these guys in order. Okay, but if people still have problems with that, another thing I've been working on is on my web page here. So see this, you can type that into your browser. You come to my website, and I set up a special page which links to YouTube videos. I set up playlists on the YouTube videos. Let me see here. So in YouTube, I set up all these playlists, week 1 all the way up to week 9. They give me a limit on how many I can upload at a time. So I have like another couple hours, and then I can probably get up week 9 and week 10 videos. Okay, but from there, just to organize it a bit, I set up a web page here. You can see here, if I click on it, it'll show you like all of the videos within the playlist. So that's another way you can go about doing it. And you have the CS week 1, week 2, week 3, so on and so forth, all the way down. When I get a chance, I'm thinking I'm going to probably add some more to this information. I'll maybe add some bullets about the topics that each of the video or the playlists for that week will cover. Generally, it'll probably line up with all the learning objectives that you're supposed to have. So I'll try to put some of that information in here for the playlist info. So that's another resource that you can look at. But if you're happy with just using the Media Gallery, you can use the Media Gallery also. Okay, but if you find this kind of organization helpful, you can use this one too. So I'm almost done setting this guy up. Okay, let me come back to the VLOOKUP and then talk more about some other stuff too. So where's my VLOOKUP? So here's my VLOOKUP. Okay, so you probably remember this from the last video. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so remember we did this pizza lookup example, right? So I had the pizza 1 through 5, 10, 20, right? And we know that when we do the approximate lookup, and this is where I look up the unit price per pizza. So if I set this to be true, right, you know, that means I can basically look up for any of these. I don't have to get exactly 1 or exactly 5 or exactly 10 or exactly 20 to look this up, right? And that's why this works when I put 2 in here, right? Let me come back to here, right? So true means approximate match, and false means exact match, right? This is what we covered last video, right? So the reason why I'm going through this again is because this is an important thing, right? A lot of people get tripped up on this. So you really, number one, VLOOKUP is an important thing to know for Excel. Like almost any time people are touching Excel, anything beyond like the normal basic calculations, you're going to probably do some sort of VLOOKUP, okay? So for things like this, you'll be doing a VLOOKUP, and so you want to understand, you know, how each of these elements work, right? So the first part is the lookup value, then the table, which is this, and then the column that you want, right? So we want the unit cost, okay? And then this range lookup, right? So I'm going through this again. Let me take this out. Let's see what it defaults to, right? Because I don't need to. Anytime you see in here, you see this little bracket thing here, that means it's optional. You don't need to put that in. It'll just kind of default. So let's see what that actually defaults to if I just close this up. Well, so it still works, right? So if it still works, that means it defaults to true, right? You remember what happens when I make this false, right? So if I make this false, false, okay? NA means it didn't find it, right? If I put a 1 here, it finds it, right? So 1, 5, 10, okay? And let's see. Let me just do a quick change here. This, I just want to show you this just to show what happens when I put in something. Just put in a stupid number there. When I put this in not in order, right? So now this is not in order, okay? And let's come back to here and let's set up this table. So I set this to be N14 to 018, and I need to make this 19 now. So I make this 19, and you see what happened. You can see that the whole table picked up my extra record that I put in, right? N14 to 019 defines that, okay? But I still have it to false. Now let's see what happens. Now I'm gonna make this a 2. And you see it found the 2, right? So 2 and then 11, okay? And notice, again, you see this is not in order, right? All it has to be is unique. Let's, for the heck of it, let's just make this 2 and see what happens here. Oops. Let's make this 2. Okay? So you can see what happened here, right? By this being 2 is false, it came to here and took that, right? The fact that I have another 2 here and it has 11 here, it doesn't even see that, right? Because that's all it gets to. So that's why this should be unique, right? So if you're gonna do exact match, it doesn't have to be in order, right? But it needs to be unique. Well, it still works, right? But you're not gonna get the results that you might expect, okay? So you can see I did this 2 and a 2 here. I didn't really get an error, but you're gonna get unexpected results, right? So this is just a point to just clarifying the point of the, where's the PowerPoint at? Here's the PowerPoint. So this point here where it says must be sorted low to high. This must be sorted low to high It's really more for when you're doing the approximate match. You can imagine the approximate match is going to get all screwed up if this is not in order. Okay, but like I said, just to be clear, when you look at this where you're going to get the exact match, the only thing you really want to try and do is make sure that it's unique. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Make sure you let me know if that's not clear, because this is a pretty important point. Okay, so hopefully this demonstrated, number one, what happens when you do a default. Don't put in this last part here. I kind of think it's useful to put it in here, even though Excel tells you that this is an optional thing to put in. I kind of think it's useful to just put in whether it's true or false, whichever one you want to use. Just put in the argument. It doesn't hurt to put it in. And if someone is kind of reading all of these, let's say they do the control tilde, they look at all the formulas. If they can see this, it just makes it more clear. Okay, but let's say you don't put it in, then you know it's going to default to true. Okay, and make sure this whole bit about when you define the table, this lookup part here, you make sure you're clear on when you need to make sure it's sorted and ordered, and when you just need to make sure that it's a unique item here. Okay, and you know, actually the point about being unique, it actually applies whether it's true or false on this exact match thing here. Anytime you put duplicates in here, it's going to screw things up. So you want to try to make sure this is unique here. Okay. So hopefully that's all clear. Make sure you let me know if it's not clear. Okay. So VLOOKUP, all this thing I just mentioned here is very important for you to understand that. You're going to get asked questions on this, and you're going to get asked about what it means to have that exact matching versus approximate matching. And you're going to get asked about this part here, about sorting, unique, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so if any of things I just said is not clear, make sure you give me a shout and let me know, see what I need to clarify for you. Okay, all right, so let's do quickly, let's go into the PMT. Oh, well, so here on the PowerPoint slide, which some of you may have already looked at in the VLOOKUP resources, you've already looked at the rest of the slides for this. But you can see, here's the VLOOKUP, and you can see here, they put in true, even though they didn't need to, right? But they put in the true just to be explicit, like I said. It's good to have that. And really, all that is here's like a list of all of the different types of trees, okay? And so you're gonna basically look it up, and you're gonna have this item number here. So you punch in this item number, and then it'll look it up into here, and then it'll come back with the tree name. Okay, so that's what this VLOOKUP will look like. If I had to draw an analogy, you can almost think of this as sort of like, you know, this table is sort of like a database, right? And you know, you're just kind of looking things up on the database. So you can, it could be, in this case, it's a tree. It could be like looking up a food item. It could be looking up whatever. Whatever you have in inventory, looking it up, getting all the relevant information related to that item. Okay, so you look this up, it will be, you know, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever columns you want to look at to pick up any one of these columns on this table that you've defined. Okay, so in this case, they punched in this item number, and you got this tree name that came back. Okay, but could be I look up the price, right? Or you can look up the information about, you know, how to use this plant. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't know if I need to give more examples on VLOOKUP or not, but I just can't emphasize how important it is that you understand how VLOOKUP works, right? If you feel like I need to give you more examples on VLOOKUP, just let me know. I'll do that. Here's another common function, PMT, okay? And all this really is talking about dealing with loans and stuff like that. I'm going to give you like more of an example on this later too. But basically, you can see here's what goes into the PMT. You need the rate, right? And you have the number of periods, and you have like the present value, okay, which is basically how much you're going to borrow. And future value, it's optional, and not really sure how many times I've ever really used that one. It's really set to be 0 because it's assuming you're going to pay for the whole loan, right? It's not like you're going to, pay and then, have like $1,000 at the end or something like that. You basically pay it down until you pay off the whole thing. Maybe you work out some sort of arrangement where you pay off to a certain amount and then you're going to, give it as a down payment or sell it to someone else at a certain price at the end or whatever. That may be the case, but usually it's you're borrowing money and you're paying off the whole thing by the end period. Okay? Okay? So let me just code this example up that they have here. Okay? And I'll explain it as we punch it in here. Okay, so this part, just kind of gives you like a little bit of a story behind this to get to this, but really this part is really what's important here. Okay, so 10%, so let's say 0.1 or 0.10 if you want. Let's say interest, right? And what do we have here? The number of payments. And how much do we want to borrow? We want to borrow 16,000. So 16. All right. Let's just kind of pretty this up a little bit. So let's say this is a percent, and let's say this is your loan amount, something like that. Let's get rid of these decimals. Okay. All right. So let's do a PMT. All right. So equal PMT. Oops. PMT. And let's see what's the first thing that we want. All right, so we want the rate, so let's get the rate. All right, now, one thing to note here, when we talk about the rate, 10% is the 10% for the whole year, right? So it's usually you think about interest rate, I'm telling you like, 10% a year, or it's annualized rate. Now, but you look at the number of payments, the payments are basically money that you're going to be paying each month. So what does that mean? So this is a thing you should remember and make note of. That means you have to divide by 12. Okay? So I divide by 12. And let's see what the next argument is. So n per means number of periods. Okay, so number of periods is here. And I need just to emphasize this again. This is number of periods, which is each period being a month. Right? That's totally the reason why you need to divide this by 12 to make sure your interest rate is essentially the same quote-unquote units as the periods. Okay? And what's the next one? And the PV, which is basically present value, which is the loan amount, 16,000. Okay? And let's close this off. And there you go. Right? So each month you're going to be paying this amount of money, $604.98. Okay? And that's how you came up with this payment here. Okay? So hopefully that kind of explains to you like PMT and what that means. There'll be variations of this to kind of work out different angles if you want to say, well, okay, I want to pay this much money, how much of a loan can I get? But this is a common one here to say, given the interest rate, given how much money I want to pay, how much money am I going to pay each month? Right? You can think about like when you go get a mortgage or something like that. This is generally what it is. They quote you the interest rate, they tell you the loan, or you tell them the loan amount, whatever, and then say, okay, well, that's your monthly payment. Okay, so hopefully that's kind of clear to you. All right, charts, I'm going to come up with a new video for the charts, so leave that for next time. Okay, you'll see the charts here, and then you'll see series fit down here. So I'll be recording those shortly. Okay, but before I go, I want to show you a few things here. You know, just to kind of give you some idea of like what different people might using Excel sheets for. And you know, you remember at the beginning of the semester, or even like during this lecture, or the lectures, kind of mentioned to you, people can put all kinds of stuff into Excel. I mean, you can calculate, you can really make these Excel sheets get pretty sophisticated. Let's see here. So a couple of different things here. Here we go. All right. So here's one thing. Here's basically an Excel spreadsheet to do some initial evaluation of a property. Now, investment property, let's say. Now, when you look at this, these are some pretty common terms, and even then, you can get pretty fancy with this, right? So you can see all kinds of references here. You can have like little inputs here to default things, do some calculations, and you come out with something down here at the bottom in terms of like your cash on cash return and your cap rate for a property, let's say. So, you know, this is a very typical usage for Excel, right? So people will do all kinds of stuff to come up with these on their own. So this is, I kind of feel like for the average home user or someone like yourselves, like this is what you might see as typical technology usage, right, to solve your problems, right? So it's empowering people to do all kinds of different things. You know, in the past, you might be doing these type of calculations in a notebook or whatever, but they're able to crank these through on an Excel spreadsheet like this. It's pretty cool, and it's very common for people to do things like this. I think when I first did an internship, you know, when I was a student at Rutgers, when I first did an internship, I was at Johnson & Johnson, and basically that was one of the first things I did. I worked on a spreadsheet and basically built up some models on spreadsheets, and basically it was a very general model. It wasn't hard coded, just like this, right? So I can punch in like different values and it'll cascade down through all these different calculations here. You can see these formulas here. All right, so that was like one of the first things I did as an intern when I was in college. So it wasn't like coding up like some sophisticated program or anything like that. It was basically working with spreadsheets. And sometimes people use the spreadsheets not just to solve like their immediate problem, but it could be used as a prototyping thing to make a more of a formal application. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second. So this is what I would consider a basic spreadsheet to do some rough calculations here. Okay, by no means is this like the end all be all in terms of calculations to evaluate an investment property, but it gives you a pretty good idea, pretty functional, I should say. All right, now this is a mortgage calculator. Okay, again, this is all done in Excel spreadsheet. So you punch in all the different stuff here, and you know the nice thing like people like to see with things like this is, and it's fairly straightforward, right? Once you've got one of these, you can cascade this all the way down, right? So what we just calculated, you remember we just calculated the payments, right? And look, you have the PMT, right? So exactly that, right? But then you also have these other extra columns, and then they basically play this out all the way through the life of the loan. okay? And they'll break it down as you go over time, what your principal and interest is, okay? And basically, it'll kind of keep on going through to say how much interest that you're paying for the life of the loan, all that kind of stuff. So this is another typical thing that you can do with an Excel spreadsheet, okay? Now here, this is where someone came up with something pretty sophisticated. They essentially almost built out a whole application within Excel, right? You get a little bit crazy in terms of they put these buttons here you can click on. You have these tabs down here. You have all your input here. You know, you have some financing. So here's what they're looking at in terms of buying the property, right? You can look at things in terms of how much is it going to cost to renovate the property. They'll put in things like inflation, your appreciation. You know, they have different property valuation models. You know, various levels of complexity on the type of loan or financing that you're going to do. And then, you know, they'll do things like this here. Let's look at the summary. So they'll look at your cash flow over the years. They'll look at, you know, how your loan is going to play out over the years. There's some graphs talking about your monthly income, operating expenses, your capex. This is like a summary report. There's your amortization, your financing breakout. Maybe you have expenses. You also have some scenarios that you might want to play out. So scenarios here, let's say, talking about like different purchase price and how that might play out on your profitability. This is talking about a max price. I don't know what this one is, okay? But my point being is that you can see like the Excel can be built up to be something pretty sophisticated, and this is something that, you know, pretty much anyone can do, right? So the Excel provides like a lot of powerful functionality just by allowing you to organize information, build formulas on top of that, and allow you to basically piece together all kinds of slicing and dicing to be very useful to you for analysis, okay? Let me come back to here. So just for the heck of it, I put together like a property calculator, and I did this. Now, to be fair, if you really want to do this for more of a commercial application, you probably use a little bit more fancier components and make it a little bit more flashy. But just for the purpose of this class and just a demo, I kind of put together something very familiar to all of you who've been doing the assignments in terms of JavaScript, in terms of the input text boxes and stuff like that. I just put this together, and basically it's doing what this first sheet was doing. Where was that first sheet at? This sheet, where basically you were putting information to calculate your gross income, your expenses, your net operating income, and then calculating your cash on cash return, CapEx, okay? I didn't put in this mortgage calculator. I figure I can just do that as a separate tab or something. And let me see, let me go to edit here. But you can see this, right? So here's your income. So I came up with the gross income here. Here's all of this, and here's your operating expense annualized. And then here's your net operating income for the year. Here's some financing information. And then here's your ROI calculator. I didn't put anything in here, so that's why that's an NAN. And let me just do an edit on this so you can see what's behind here. Okay, so this is sitting in something called WordPress. But a lot of times, like these generic editors, they get you a lot, especially if you buy some of the premium stuff. You can get all kinds of different, like, stylings and components and whatnot. And you can default a lot of things and basically use their wizard to build things out, right? Or templates to build things out. But a lot of times, you're still going to get in there in terms of the HTML or JavaScript and customize it a bit. Sometimes the functionality is there and it's just like a little bit not intuitive for you to get to it, so it's better for you just to go right into the code and do it yourself. Or sometimes it's just not there and you're going to have to do the customization yourself, right? So all of this stuff that you see here should look pretty familiar to you, right? So I put this in here. I did a couple of different things here. I did the on mouse out to do the updates here, but you can see, the dot value. I did the multiplication, add, all that kind of stuff, right? And that's all I did. I just used basically straight JavaScript all the way through on all of this stuff here. And this is just an exercise just to kind of demonstrate to you that you can do this type of stuff. So in some ways, you can kind of look at the Excel spreadsheet as a quick way for you to do prototyping, do all kinds of different modeling in there. But if you want to, you can code it up into, let's say in my case, like a website or a web page, and then pass around. Other people can use this, right? So you're not going to pass around an Excel spreadsheet to everyone, but you give them like a web page to go to, and there you go. That's it. Uh, so just some food for thought. Just thought I would share that with you. Okay. I'll come back soon with the other videos for the charts, and we'll continue from there. Thank you.